Welcome to the Employee to Entrepreneur channel. Please subscribe so every week you get to hear from amazing guests that share their stories and inspiration and motivation to help them in their journey, and hopefully it will inspire you as well in your transition from employee to entrepreneur. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. This channel is all about transitioning from employee to entrepreneur, and we have amazing guests every time you come on this channel that you can learn from. You can glean their nuggets and you can hear about their journey of their transition from employee to entrepreneur, their struggles and their challenges, also their successes of being an entrepreneur. So if entrepreneurship is something you're desiring, you're looking forward to achieving great successes, whatever that looks like for you, you're at the right spot. I am so excited today because we have the one and only, the most amazing Angie Correa, who is going to share with us a little bit about her journey. She used to be a digital media corporate executive for 20 years. She's now a business coach, and she is really out to help business owners create lifestyles that they want. For people who have struggled through overwhelm and insecurity, which we really all feel like when we're in this journey, she now has an amazing entrepreneurship journey that she's been through. And she's been an incredible student of personal development, which I believe is one of the biggest reasons for your success. Angie, thank you so much for being with us today. You and I have known each other pre-pandemic, I think. We
Yeah,
met
8 or 9 years.
in a business together in Legal Shield. I'm just so thrilled with how much you've accomplished since I've met you. I know we've commiserated on the story of having that employee mindset and transitioning into entrepreneurship and how interesting of a journey that is. First of all, I'm going to pass it over to you. Just if you can share a little bit more details around you and who you are and
Yeah.
why you decided that employeehood wasn't really what you wanted to do.
I love that employeehood. Yeah, that's such a great way to say it. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I love having this conversation. I think we need more people to be having this conversation. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, so I followed all the rules, get a good job, go to school, get in a specific specialty, then get that job. And you plan on staying there for 20, 30 years, which believe it or not, a lot of my friends still are in these corporate jobs that they got right out of college. And that's all well and good. There's definitely a lot that I learned from working in corporate, but I knew in my soul that just wasn't the end all be all for me. And before I even get into one of the things that I tell my clients is that we get to create the type of career that matches who we are at the time that we are in whatever lifestyle. And so I think that the more juice we can squeeze out of that orange is like the best thing that you can do because that's going to transition you into something else. And I say that because I had a lot of success in corporate and I worked for huge media companies, the big names that you can think of right now, like your email provider or your website providers. And before that, going through college, I was working at a high-end retail store, but the skill set that we're learning all along the way is what gets you to the point where when you decide to become an entrepreneur, you can really land on your feet. And the transition for me, it was funny because it's like I had known for many years that I wanted to do something else. I just wasn't sure where to start, where to go, what to do. And then somebody introduced me to something that I could do on the side. And I did that while I had my corporate job. And that's when it all began. And that's now almost 30 years ago. And it's been the biggest blessing of my life, really. And I have so much to say about this that I'm like, ah.
I'm so excited. So, can you maybe share? Because sometimes this happens. I know this was something that happened to me, but was there like a pivotal moment in your career where you knew that a change had to happen, that no longer being an employee was serving you and
Yeah.
figure out something else?
Yeah, that's such a great question because I think for me it was really subtle. It was like I had this pull in my heart, but what was really the sign was that I would go into work and I was just exhausted.
Mhm.
all the time. Like it was like I would wake up in the morning and I would get to the office and I would sit at my desk and I could barely move my fingers over the keys because it wasn't fulfilling. And I at the time just was like, oh my God, something must be wrong with my health. But what it was that there was something wrong with my purpose. I
Wow.
didn't have a purpose. Like it was like I was just going through the motions. And that's really like the biggest thing because even down to that particular job too, that was the last corporate job that I had, they eliminated my position. Yeah, partly because of whatever logistics in the back end and whatever, but at the same time, I really wasn't performing at my highest level when I think about it retrospectively. And it's because of that, my purpose wasn't being fulfilled. I was just there. I was just filling a seat with a quota.
So I totally understand, and I agree. And there might be people watching this who are debating that transition of employee and entrepreneur. And I believe our body signals things way faster
Mm,
than anything else. So I'm on board with all that. But let me ask you a different question because some people might say, okay, that's great, Angie, but how do you know if you were just maybe in the wrong job? Like, why is it that it was entrepreneurship was your purpose and not just you're in the wrong
yeah.
job?
I think that's such a great question. And people get to think about that because there are people who it could be just the wrong job. But for me, I knew that it was the act of going in and working for somebody else on their terms because anytime I was out doing my own thing, I was completely energized. And so there is a fine line, I think, for certain people. They really love their work, but it's okay. They get to find a better company or a better boss. But for me, it was really just, I can't do this action anymore of going in and living up to somebody else's expectations and having to report in and be there on time and do all these things. It wasn't allowing my creativity to flow. It wasn't another job for me. And I think also as you get older, I mean, I just turned 55. So I think you really get a lot clearer. Was I really going to go back and find another job at that point? I was in
Yeah.
my 40s already. I was like, no.
Right. Yeah, and it's so true. Sometimes it is hard to decipher between a purpose being, do I just not like where I'm at right now, or am I meant for some greater?
Hmm.
And I'm also the first to say, and I think you guys have heard this on my podcast many times, or whenever you hear me speak, I'm a big believer in employees. Like, we need people.
Hmm, for sure.
If you love what you're doing, or you think you can find another job that is an employment that you love, please, like, the goal is be happy with what you're doing,
Mhm.
enjoy it. And I don't ever want anyone to say I'm just an employee or the only way to success is entrepreneurship. That's not true. But if you are feeling that tug and your
Hmm.
purpose and your body is speaking
Hmm.
to make this transition, do it.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. That's absolutely, I agree with that a million percent. And in fact, many of my clients still have their corporate jobs and they're just not sure.
Right.
They're not clear. And so people like us who are coaches who have been walk somebody through that journey for them to be able to figure it out. And I also recommend that you start something while you still have your job, because that could also give you that space, that latitude, and that financial stability to be able to pursue something on the side that could grow into your full time, but you at least have the leeway to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you talk to us about what or who has influenced you the most as you've been working through this transformation into being an amazing entrepreneur.
It's funny, I was recently interviewed and my mom, it sounds kind of cliche sometimes, but in reality, I think back to all the things that she was able to do after all these different circumstances, from going from being married and having two little ones to getting a divorce to learning how to drive to getting a job after she's been a stay-at-home mom for many years and then getting a job and staying in that job for 30 years. And we never wanted for anything.
Mhm.
Right. And she created, it's almost like I was living in this bubble of freedom,
Mhm.
not knowing the struggle that she was going through, but it also created space for me to dream about freedoms because we would go on road trips and she bought a car and we would go to the beach and we would do all these things and she figured it out. That's the part too. I think entrepreneurship, especially with women, we're so hands on and so creative and so let's go and let's do it. Let's figure it out. I think my biggest influence for sure, 1,000,000%.
Wow, that's really great. So that's so interesting. Kudos to your mom. I loved what you
Yeah.
said about it allowed you this bubble of freedom, which is such an interesting thing because when you think of bubbles, you
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
and you've
Right.
expressed it in a way that's this bubble of freedom. If you could go back in time now and talk to that little girl, what advice or what would you say, or what would you change anything that you experienced to be where you are today?
It's the one thing that comes to mind. There's literally nothing really I would change, but the one thing that does come to mind is always like starting sooner. I think, but then I wouldn't have gone into the things that I've gone into with the experience and the knowledge had I done it sooner. So it's a little bit of a give and take in terms of would I have changed anything other than starting sooner? No. But then at the same time, I'm like, would I have learned all that I have learned? So it's an interesting one. It's a hard one to answer at this point in my life and my career, but it's a good one to ponder.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that one of the things that I want to deep dive a little bit more is that we often underestimate the things that we've learned and get stuck value in it. So let's go
Mhm.
to that path a little bit here because really awesome that you've said, I don't want to negate or I should have started earlier because I wouldn't have had those experiences to be who I am and what I am today. So let's go down that. What would you say are some of the really core, key, fundamental things that you learned that you're so happy that had you down the path you may not have been able to
Mm,
forward with you?
yeah. This is something that I talk about a lot, and that is that have switched careers. I think it's 4 or 5 times, like literal careers from working in retail when I was going through school and being in fashion and thinking that was the end all be all. And then, no, that wasn't. And then I went into working in publishing and magazine publishing and doing advertising sales for a magazine. And that was like, okay, that's good, but that wasn't it. And then radio, and then digital marketing, and then technology. But my point is that I was liquid enough, if you will, to be able to move and ebb and flow and find the next thing. And I never took a step back. Never. When I went from fashion to advertising, I basically went in as a senior account executive and didn't start as anything less than a senior account executive. Basically, I never took a step back.
Right.
And I think, and I don't even remember, I feel like somebody, oh, it was, I think one of my interviews that they were very kind of complimentary of all the different skills that I had or how I carried myself. And I was like, oh, that's something that everybody gets to remember, that just because you didn't do something and you haven't gone into that career path or that journey or that entrepreneurship doesn't mean that you don't already have life skills that can take you into that next journey. And I think that is the biggest lesson, is that your learning curve shrinks because you realize that it's not anything like you don't have to go from 0 to like 100. You're going from 0 to 40, from 40 to 60, from 60 to 80. You know what I mean? That's what we're doing. And that's the
Right.
biggest lesson, I think.
That's amazing. And I want everyone else also to pick up the nugget around the ebb and flow, right?
Mm,
One of the things that I always, coach and train on is that the journey of entrepreneurship is not linear the way most
mm,
employee careers are. There are a lot more
yeah.
ridiculous roller coasters that you see. So much money to go and stand in line for 4 hours to do. This is amazing. Oh my God, this is amazing. Oh my God, what did I do? And like, why did I decide to do it? But I love what you said around taking all the different components of it and allowing that ebb and flow to feel less like a roller coaster, which I really think is what
Right.
we all need to do in a
Hmm.
entrepreneurial world is how do we get to the point where it's not so high and the fall is not so bad that you can't
Right.
back up again and do
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely giving yourself grace when you're stepping into that and being able to take calculated risks. But I think it's also finding the right opportunities with the right people that, will take a stand for you and with you.
is coaching and training. So one of the things that I always say
Yeah.
is we go to school. This is my humble opinion on our educational system, a little bit worldwide, but definitely in North America. We go to school to be really great employees. That's what really,
Mm,
you learn to have a time slot, the bell rings, you raise your hand to go to the bathroom, you live in a box and you go off to secondary school, you live in a bit more of a box, you join a corporate job and you're still doing the same kind of thing. But there's no real educational system or program or anything to be an entrepreneur.
yeah.
How important has getting training or having a coach or having people
Mm,
help you
yeah.
do your success? And now that you are doing really well, do you
Yeah.
still take coaches? Do you invest in yourself and why?
I think it's critically important that anyone and everyone, whether you're looking to become an entrepreneur, just in your career in general, to get yourself somebody that you can bounce things off of, that you can quantum leap your goals, that can see the gaps and help you through those gaps. If there was some, it's like something happened in society where people think if they do it on their own, it makes them even stronger, even better, even smarter. But the reality that we are meant to be, we're pack animals. We're meant to build and to do and to create in community. Like tribes across the globe have been doing it that way. And yes, I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in myself over the years, since as long as I can remember, in hiring coaches for my relationship, for my career, for my weight, for every single area of my life. I still will hire coaches, sometimes in just smaller capsules for long periods of time, just because I like to get other people's feedback and perspective. And I want to, when I'm getting stuck, I want to break free of the stuckness and go. I'm just, my personality is let's just go, show me where my gaps are, and then let's just move through that. And it's so important if you're serious, right? If you're ready, if because I think the thing that also fuels that fire of the desire to want to move and want to create and want to do things. It's okay, if you are that person and you don't want to just sit in the status quo every day, then it is really important for you, especially if we're, and I, a lot of the people I work with are over 45 into their 60s. So they're in that secondary part of their life, really. And so we don't have a lot of time to waste. And we don't have time to waste anyway, in general, I feel. It's stop waiting for the right time, the right amount of money, the right partner, the right whatever. Just go on and do it and figure it out by getting somebody that's already been there and done that and can help you see the way forward.
That's amazing. So, in this era of AI tools and
Mm,
even YouTube, and where you might be watching this call right now, in the world of free internet resources and ChatGPT and all of this kind of availability of information that we've never really seen before, why should I pay for anything? Why should
mm,
I? Because if I can get it anyway, aren't I investing in myself? Isn't that just enough?
yeah.
Forget even the
I
library.
mean, I love it. I think that is based on people's individual personality types and styles, right? Sure, I can use all of the tools, but I'm going to invest for somebody to sit with me specifically on what I'm working on. I love the people that are like they can just lone wolf it and do the whole thing and go to AI and go to Google and learn. I'm just not that person. So I think it really becomes like, who are you? What do you want? And how fast do you want to get there? Because I don't want to have to learn the tool, then implement the tool, then execute the plan. I want like my personality is just not that. I'm not going to sit there for hours trying to figure it all out. And I have people in my life that can and will. And so we get to decide what is it worth? What is my time worth? Like I already hold so much information in my head. Do I want more information? I know a lot of tools are out there that can do a lot for us, but I know I need to have somebody help me put it all together.
Yeah, and
So,
I think that's so true. I think in some ways it's actually more overwhelming than ever
mm,
by the amount of information out there. And how do I know that something is relevant for me and what I'm doing, as opposed to just having access
mhm.
to it? So I love that. That's very much my perspective on it. But I always like
Yeah,
hearing my guest
yeah,
on why pay for something if you can get it for free. And a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
people say that. A lot of people
yeah.
say,
And I'm like, okay, if it's for free, like I think the challenge back to somebody that says, why pay for it if I can get it for free is really that Yes, you can get it for free. And have you done it already?
That's great.
Okay, so it's there. Why haven't you done it? Why haven't you accomplished it? Why haven't you created it? If it's out there and it's for free, and I think that there's definitely more skin in the game when you put out money for something to get you a result that you're looking for from somebody who's created that result already. And so, if you, again, it comes down to personality, but also if everything in the world is out there, then why don't we have more millionaires? Why don't we have more business owners? Why don't we have more of these people? Because it's free and they're like, oh, I can get it anytime, but you're not even setting aside the time to get it.
Right.
You're
So
not an action taker. And that's okay because I think that it's like we're not all meant to be entrepreneurs.
yeah, again, it's the same thing we've already said, right? Not everybody
Yeah.
wants to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay. That's
Yeah.
absolutely okay.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you are,
For sure.
invest in yourself. Invest-
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that people underestimate. I think the other thing too is when you think about that, sure, there's, as we've been in book clubs and all the books, and so there's tons out there. And there's a difference between somebody that can, two people can read the same book and one can go and take all the action, and the other one is just sitting there waiting for something to happen, the right time, the right money, the right partner, the right whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. You're right. I love that. That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit differently. I want to hear your definition of success because
Mm,
I also think that as an employee, we often get predefined what success is, right? This is
mhm,
your next promotion, this is your next level, this is your next income category or your job title or whatnot. And so successes tends to be very pre-registered to you, define. Again, you
mhm.
graduate grade 6 and you go into grade 7, you go into 10 into grade 11. But in the world of entrepreneurship, the success ends up being a moving goalpost, quite honestly. What is success? How do you define it? And at what point do you know you've reached it?
Wow, that's such a big question. That's like part one, part two, part three, part 27. I think it is something that changes as you change. I know for me, and I was extremely successful in my corporate career in a much different way than the success that I have now. It was much different. And so when I was younger in my 20s and 30s, and at the beginning and the height of digital marketing from a publisher standpoint, we were just bringing in the deals, and we're talking 25, $30 million deals, right? And then it became, whoa, my lifestyle just changed dramatically. And it became about how many things I could have. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I've done a lot of work around it, right? So that was that part of my life. So it was very much based on the materialistic things. That was my personal experience. I think for me right now, where I am today, the success that I am looking for every single day is how much quality time can I have with the people in my life? And how can the business that I'm building sustain that? The ability to be able to travel for a month at a time, the ability to be able to move from state to state whenever I feel like it, the ability to not work until 11 o'clock in the morning. And so those are quality things to be able to derive my success from, and then be able to also be financially stable and be able to give back and contribute to whatever causes or churches or whatever. I think it becomes a more outward expression instead of that kind of inward validation. If
Yeah, I really think so. And I think that's one of the bigger difference of all the entrepreneurs that I've spoken to and talked to. That tends to be one of the middle points of when you're flipped over to really being an entrepreneur and a business owner.
Mm,
Very successful when your mindset shifts to
mhm,
having very different
mhm,
definitions of success. And I think part of the issue that we have in this day and age in society is that we see so many things on social media. You've got the people in their cars working on the beach going, I make $1 million and all I do is sit on the beach all day long. And we look at that and say, that's what I want. But it's also not a realistic framing of being an entrepreneur. And there is a lot of work required. And I think having a very clear idea of success in the short term, but two, you're really thinking about what are the quantitative and
mm,
qualitative criteria, you know that you've actually, yeah, I'm building a business for X, Y, and Z reason.
Yeah, it is. And I think the other thing is too, a lot of the people that I work with, they're being challenged now with really questioning like how good of a wife, parent, daughter, whatever, because their pursuit of success took them away from all of the things that were important to them. And so they're looking now for that shift. And again, we're going back to time. They don't have as much time as they did when they started when they were in their 20s. Now they're 55 trying to flip the switch
Yes.
because the awareness of what's actually important now hit them. And they're like, oh, I missed the funeral and I missed soccer games and I missed wedding, whatever it is, because I was committed to one place because this one place said, in order to be successful, you need to be here 80 hours a week. You need to show up on the weekends. You need to answer our calls and our emails all hours of the day and night. And so what's happening to our world, to our people that now have missed out on so much, they have to like backtrack.
Yeah, and it's true. One of the downsides of entrepreneurship is that you have too much control over your life. And so
Yeah.
learning to balance through, if I think about it, it'll happen. It's just going to come to me. I don't have a great idea and it'll just happen.
No.
And now I can do all those things and just enjoy everybody else. And suddenly you look at your bank account and say, what happened to all my money?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the funny part about that too, and I definitely have been one of those. I'm like, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. And you have to put systems in place, and that's where the calendar actually still works.
Yes.
And mapping things out and making appointments with people. But I think the beauty of it is that now you get to design it how you want it. But we definitely get to plan that out because it can run away from us.
Think are probably, let's say, I mean, you can go to five, but let's say three, your top
Mm,
three learnings that you
mm,
had to learn. Is it a mindset or
mm,
skill from being a really amazing corporate employee, having great successes
mm,
to
mm,
being an entrepreneur? Like, what would you say were your top
mm.
three things that were like a complete mind bend where you're like, wow, I wish I'd figured that out sooner?
From going from employee to entrepreneur,
Yes.
I think it's funny because the first thing that came to mind was I remember a boss telling me, don't come to me with the problem, come to me with the solution. And
I
so
love it too.
you're so right. We're so used to going to our bosses with as many solutions as possible for the problem. At least that's like, I just remember that being such a thing. Don't go with the problem, come up with some solutions. But then when you're an entrepreneur, you forget it's the same, you can use that same methodology. And I just remember, oh, like always, what am I doing? Focusing on the problem. And then one day I was just like, oh, find the solutions, right? And it is with Googling or hiring a mentor or getting a book or something like that. But it was like we can go down a really dark spiral of problems when we are also our own solution finder.
Absolutely. And just to, I know you're going to give me a couple of more, but just to deep dive on that one a little bit, I think that mindset of being so hard on ourselves,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
I really found that one to be hard. If there was not
Mm,
something to do, or this, it was like just beating
mhm.
myself up over the fact
Yeah.
it's a problem. I'm a problem. This is a
Yeah.
problem. I think I made the wrong decision. What am I doing? And just living in that world and it's spiraling
Hmm.
in actually so many
Yeah.
different components. Like when you're at work,
Hmm.
I found that when I was in my career, if there was a problem, I didn't own responsibility of the problem. Like that was someone else's problem. It's my job to fix it, but I didn't own the problem. I became an entrepreneur
Right.
problem, and all of a sudden I'm terrible. I was so over dramatic about the problem because it was like, I'm not smart enough to handle it, or
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
the owner, the creator, and like everything about this problem. So I love
Yeah.
what you said about how,
Yeah.
but I'm also the person who can create the solution to it.
Hmm.
Not necessarily alone, but it doesn't have to eat up my entire mindset.
And that's where, again, that's where coaches, mentors, masterminds, group coaching, like all of that comes into play because you can bounce that kind of stuff off of other people and they can support you with that. I think the second thing for me, what I think about, and I can't think of it, I'll see if a third one comes up, but I know this is another big one, is I remember a boss once told me, and you, everybody else stays later than you, and I need you to work harder. And I'm like, does staying later mean work harder? I don't understand. And I remember at that time, I was working for the digital version of one of the largest men's magazines out there during that time. You can all guess which one it was. And I remember my deal size being way bigger than anybody else's, but I was getting the lion's share of budgets from my clients, whereas other people were getting little bits and pieces like nuggets. And so that whole concept of you got to work hard to prove it to your boss, to do this, to do that. And I'm like, actually, you could just work smarter, right? Working harder doesn't mean the 80, 90 hours a week to prove it. Nobody cares. They want you there because it's that slave mentality, to be quite frank. But what happened is that then you go into entrepreneurship, so you think you need to stay busy all day long, right? I was like, okay, what do I get to have to do all these things, and you can't chill out or relax, and you got to get it all done before you can actually go out and enjoy yourself or meet up with friends or doing any of that. Now, there are seasons for that for sure, but I think though that whole work hard mentality is outdated, it's old, it's archaic, and we get to encourage people to work smarter, which is again going back to the last point of finding your own solutions. Because then the more that you exercise that part of your brain, the quicker that it will respond. And then down the road, you can get things done in half the amount of time or a quarter of the amount of time, which is why people do the 4 hour work week. There are people that master that. And
Right.
I think mastering that part is also this big aha because it's like you're punishing yourself if you're not working all the hours,
Right.
right? It's, what am I doing with my life? I didn't sign up for this. And you're not getting results, but you're still not getting results with busy work.
No.
So smarter work hours.
Yeah, I love that. I think that really, that was to me for sure one of my difficult things is when I transitioned because I was working 60, 80 hours a week in my job. And I had a lot of work to do, but I don't think I was working as smart. But when I came into entrepreneurship, I found myself having that same employee world of if I'm working 80 hours, I must be
Yeah.
successful. But
Yeah.
the question is, what are you doing in those 80 hours? Like, why
Right.
can't I do them
Right.
in 20?
Exactly. Which is why I think the next generation has it nailed. But the third one did come to me, and it's the value that we place on team, like having a really good team
Mm,
around you. Now, does that mean that as an entrepreneur, you're going to hire a whole team? Not necessarily. It could be the team of people that collect as you're moving through your business so that you can bounce things off of people, right? Somebody who's an expert in numbers or an expert in marketing or just somebody that's good to bounce ideas off of. I remember like my biggest successes in corporate was because my team was like we were dialed in. It was like we were in one boat and we were rowing in the same direction.
mm,
And we lose sight of team when you're an entrepreneur because we do spend a lot of time alone. And it was getting to the point where it was like I had nobody around me ever once a month. And forget about when we went through the pandemic. It was just it made things so much worse for people. But really understanding the importance of like connectedness and how it affects your daily life, your mindset, your priorities, and also your productivity. So find those people and create your own team and then make it so that, like, I have people that are in Italy, that are in Spain, that are in Ireland, like they're all across the world and we have to schedule because of all different times. But also our local people, right? It's like we get to find 3 to 4 people that become your like growth team. And then that's where so much can shift also because everybody's experience is different and they can bring new opportunities to you and we can start creating cohorts that we can then collaborate with and exchange whatever it is. And it's just been game changer.
wow. So I totally agree. The whole idea of team, because it's true. And often in a employee world, you do have a team, not necessarily one you've picked, but one you might be in. The beauty of entrepreneurship is you get to pick a team. So that's amazing. But what are your thoughts around a mastermind group? What do you
Oh, yeah.
about like the whole concept of laws of association mastermind groups that are not
Yeah.
necessarily your day-to-day team?
Oh, I love masterminds. I think masterminds are the best thing in the whole wide world. I've been a part of them. I have facilitated them. There's nothing more invigorating than bringing people together on, and usually it's a subject, right? So whether it's a mindset shift or an entrepreneurial shift or something like that, and that excitement, that momentum, huge on group programs and mastermind programs.
So maybe let's step back a little bit and explain to maybe somebody who hasn't
Yeah,
heard the concept of mastermind. Because if I understand the concept of a team, like I
yeah.
might hire someone, or I even
Hmm.
household, like I got my house that's part of my team. But
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think people understand the concept of team in a work, even entrepreneur.
Mm,
But to understand what is a mastermind and why would I want to be part of one, or why,
mm,
what do they
mm, mm.
do, and why does this benefit?
Yeah.
Or
So I love this. Okay, at the it's very basic, people will come together. So somebody will organize or facilitate a way for people that are interested in something. So for example, leaving corporate. That's the kind of mastermind that I held at the very beginning when I first started. I had 10 women in a mastermind. And basically what we're doing is that we're bringing people that have either the same challenge and are looking for a result, and then the facilitator is going to walk that group together through the process of uncovering whatever that next step is. Within the mastermind, what I think is so brilliant is that you can get people from all over the world to all join in, but there's a sphere of influence that you're creating now. It's when you go to a prep school or an Ivy League university or something where you have that graduating class. I'm still friends with the girls in my graduating class from high school, but a mastermind, now that you're delving deeper into a specific subject matter, for the most part, it can get a little bit broad, but that subject matter and then moving through those motions together, I don't even know how to explain it. There's nothing like it because you're really building a community that you can go out into the world with, that's seeing you, that's supporting you, that is encouraging you, that's celebrating you along the way. And a lot of times people don't have that in their marriages, in their families, with their siblings, or even with their best friends. So it's where you can actually execute on that idea, that plan, that strategy, that shift that you might not be able to get anywhere else.
yeah, I just love that explanation. And I've been part of many mastermind groups, and they are formative. Because sometimes
Hmm.
also you might have an idea, and your mastermind's that's a great idea. All of a sudden, it pulls you out of the weeds and go, okay, like how would this work? And the brainstorming, the community, the
Hmm.
support suddenly makes you feel like, okay, maybe I can do this. Because you're right. Sometimes, even with good intentions, their family and friends
Hmm.
are not supportive. They don't understand what we're doing, and we a lone wolf.
Yeah,
But they love us, even if they
yeah,
want.
yeah. And I think I say this all the time, you can only rise to that in which you have been exposed.
Mm.
Right? So if you're looking to go into entrepreneurship, but none of your friends or your family or your partner has done that, then a mastermind is a great place to go because you not only have somebody who's already made that jump, but then you have other people who want to make that jump. So you'll all be feeding off of each other's questions and progress. So it's really a tremendous growth opportunity.
So how does one find a mastermind, or how does one create one? What do I
I
do?
mean, if you just type in mastermind, you probably find a million different types of masterminds. I think it's channels like yours where you're interviewing so many experts. I'm getting ready to launch a mastermind and a group program. For me, that's two different arenas. My mastermind is for existing or past clients that have already gone through phase one, which is leaving their corporate job. And now phase two is building their business to the next level. But then a group program, which is similar, but then you have layers, like a beginner layer. What's the question? And the question is, what am I feeling? The feeling is, I'm thinking I want to leave my job, but I'm not really sure what's next. A great place too. And again, channels like yours is just a great place for people to find opportunities to join something like this. Social media is amazing, obviously.
Great. So you heard it here. If you don't have a mastermind, that's definitely another massive nugget out of this conversation.
Yeah.
I full-heartedly agree. It's been beyond instrumental. In all fairness, even this entire program, this channel, this employee to entrepreneur came out of a mastermind. I can tell you the date, the time, the who, how it all happened.
Yeah.
It was like a snap overnight where I went from
Yeah.
thinking about it, pondering it, not really having any idea and direction to just it existing. It's all
Yeah.
miraculous.
Yeah, but that's a testament also to masterminds is that even the things that you don't believe are possible becomes possible in such a quick turnaround because of what we get from them. So we're not just giving as a facilitator, but what we get from them as a participant. It's, oh, yeah, I can make anything happen if just put myself in that vibe,
Yeah.
right? In that energetic space.
And Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich is the first
Yeah,
one I really, and I know you have too, is where I fully understood
yeah.
masterminds, and the amazing book. If you have not read it,
Mm,
please let that be your first one. But that leads me into, as we're closing out, I want to talk a little bit about personal development because I know
mhm,
that's mental in your journey. So
mhm,
a little bit about how personal development has influenced you,
mhm.
impacted you, and why do we need to even do personal development in general as a human, but particular as an entrepreneur?
Oof, oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, I love this. So, in general, as a human, doing personal development is so instrumental because you get to understand yourself from a different perspective. And it is such a conscious decision. I honestly have to say that personal development is not here to fix you overnight, but the conscious decision to become a better human is so respectable, I think. And not just because I've been doing it for a long time, but it's like everybody that I know that's in it, it's, oh, yeah, you really work through it. And again, it's not taking away all your problems or that you won't ever feel trauma or go through bad times, but it'll shrink the amount of time that it'll affect you as a human. And then as an entrepreneur, it will give you key nuggets into the shifts and changes that will inevitably happen. And I think really for both, it's about shrinking the amount of time that you allow yourself to go down into the ebbs, right? And come back up into the flow, right? That it's not so dramatic and that you understand and that you allow and you open yourself up and you go with it. And that you also see and know, especially in entrepreneurship, that there are other people who have already been through it and they're giving us that feedback, right? And that becomes a part of how we continue to move through the world, right? That's why it's so different, the success for me when I was in my 30s to who I am today, because I've been doing almost 30 years of personal development. Yeah, it's been game changer. And I'm always still working. I'm always a work in progress. And I think that's the beauty of it too, because I don't have an expectation for the personal growth. I have just growth.
That's amazing. So as we close it, I'm going to ask you one last question. What is your piece of advice that you would give to someone
Mm,
who has made a decision to make that transition or is humming and hawing about it? What would be your
yeah.
advice?
For somebody who's already made the transition or somebody who's thinking about making the
Either one.
transition? Either one. Okay. I think the one that I am enjoying right now is the person who's really thinking about it. And I work with mostly women, so I'm going to just address it as she's out there. She knows and she's feeling that calling. She's feeling like something's missing is go towards it, walk towards that, do the research, find people who have done it, talk to friends, find yourself a coach. I think this generation of women, especially the ones that I'm working with, haven't ever hired a coach. And so you achieve so much in your career that you're in one lane and your identity is that career. So really do the research, get out there, find yourself a coach, join a mastermind and move through the motions and ask all your questions. Right? It's okay. Like we're here to listen. We've been through it already. Ask all the questions, have all the doubts and fears and let us believe for you and then until you can believe for yourself.
Angie, thank you so much. I know you're very busy. I know that you've got so many people out there to help, and I appreciate you giving your
Um,
time, sharing your wisdom to our audience to listen. And I know you people would have picked up so many nuggets from everything you had to say. So I thank you. I thank you for our friendship and our long relationship
oh.
for you to be here today.
Oh my God, no, it's my absolute honor. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciate you so much.
Thanks for watching. Hopefully, you were inspired just as I was by our amazing guest. Please subscribe because every week we will be interviewing someone else who's made that transition from employee to entrepreneur. In the comments, please share the one nugget that you heard that will change your business as well.